Good afternoon or good morning, and if it's your case. This is the Central Florida Computer Society and the Sarasota Technology User Group, CFCS and STUG, the Windows Special Interest Group, also known as WinSIG, for Sunday, June 11th, 2023. I'm Huey Poplock, and we'll be with you for the next hour plus, going over some things dealing with Windows and computers in general. I'm Huey Poplock, and every month I go ahead and let me share my screen to show you what I'm going to be talking about. Will you go to WinSIG? And here are the articles for the day that I'm going to be covering. And then here's last month's articles. And then below it is the video recording of that meeting. And you can go back through all of these for each month. Now, it will only hold 6 months to a page, so I have a few pages. And if you go all the way down to the bottom, I believe, and this becomes a bear for me, but you can see that I go back to 2021, and you can go back and see any of the videos or what I covered for any of those meetings. I did get a question from one of you who's on here. I won't embarrass you, but one of the things you asked was, are these listed? And they are. You also asked what the main meeting is. The main meeting is in the Windows newsletter, the WinSIG newsletter that I send out. If you're not on that list, go back to the main page and come down, and there's a place right here where you can subscribe to the WinSIG monthly newsletter. And I do tell you what the meeting for the STUG is, and for CFCS, the main meetings for both of those, plus information for the WinSIG. So please make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to that if you don't already. So let's go ahead and minimize this. It looks like everything is loaded. I wish I was. And let's see. I am going to minimize, or I'm going to mute everybody, as I'm hearing some laughter, which I'm glad. Thank you. So let's go to the first one. It's on here. And this article, let's see, let's go ahead and go to the immersive reader. As you can see, it brings it up and makes it much bigger so you can read it. So Microsoft quietly released Windows 11 22H2 configuration update that boosts performance. And so here are some of the things that are listed. Some things with the captions in different languages, redesign in-app voice access, command help page. So if you're using the voice commands, there's now a help page that gives you more information that can help you. And I need to go to that and add, print it out so I remember some of those, because I've been using it and I'm getting periods, and I'm having some problems with it. So what I've done is I go ahead and bring it back in and use ChatGPT or Bard and say, here's the article I wrote, and please correct it as far as grammar, spelling, and punctuation. And it fixed it all up. It was great. So for those of you who don't like AI, that's one of the ways I use it. But so this article anyway goes and tells you all of the new things that are in what's called let's see, it's in the next one here. Let's see, no, it's in this one. Come on. I guess I don't remember. It's called something 3, and I can't remember the word. But it is an update, and you have to request it. It doesn't automatically come to you, but there's quite a bit there. But what I want to show you is, while I'm in here, whether it's using the immersive reader I can come up here and I don't know, I hope you can see this B over here. If I click that, it actually opens up Bing and the AI portion or the chat of Bing. And it asked me, what would I like to do? Well, one of them is generate a page summary. If I click that, it gave me a summary of this page. This, you can collect this, you can highlight it and copy it. There's quite a bit, you know, you can do with it. You can just hit the three buttons and hit copy and then paste it somewhere and have. So all of this page, if you're used to, gee, I'll grab the whole page and then I'll cut things out and summarize it. Well, you don't have to. It's going to do it for you. And this is part of the new Edge and Bing that's included with it. So so that's the Windows 11 update. And I've got to mute myself for a moment. My voice dried out on me. So anyway, so this is one article. We'll go ahead and close this. And the next article is Microsoft is killing Cortana, finally, on Windows starting in late 2023. So it's not gone yet, but it's going to go away. And then Windows Copilot enters the stage. The announcement comes after Redmond dropped support for Cortana mobile app 2 years ago. Cortana's spot as a Windows digital assistant has already been filled by the AI-powered Windows Copilot unveiled last week during the Build conference. Still not available. I still can't find out if we as end users are going to have access to Copilot or is only going to be for business. I asked Bing about that, and it told me they don't know because it hasn't been announced yet. So we'll have to see. I would imagine it's going to be available for businesses, and then it will be available for us as end users, but I don't know whether it's going to be free or not. No one seems to know that either. So we'll find out. So let's go ahead and close that article. And then 10 big reasons not to upgrade to Windows 11. See, I do support some of you who will say, I don't need to go to Windows 11. It's a good article. It does have a bunch of items. Actually, it said, what, 11? 10 big reasons. And it's got a long article. And, you know, what do I want to just summarize? All I want is that list. What I used to have to do was copy the whole thing and then delete things to come up with just 1 through 11 or 1 through 10. So let's tell it to go to a new topic. And it summarizes this page. But I want to say, give me the 10 reasons. Oh, you should have just picked it up. All right. The 10 reasons not to upgrade to Windows.
Looks like it's above it, Huey, in that right column.
Huey, a question on that.
Yeah, you want hang on 1 second.
Sure.
You're talking about you're talking about this, Mike?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's not all 10 of
not
them.
all 10, yeah.
Okay, but watch what I do here, and then I'll go to whoever was going to ask a question. No, it's not doing what I wanted to do and what I thought it would do. Okay. I tried this earlier with one of them and it's not remembering what I'm talking about. Okay. Somebody else had a question or a comment?
Yeah, Huey. Um, there are so many articles out there that are, 10 reasons why, 7 instances that can be used for this, that, or the other, etc. Rather than go to the article and then tell it to summarize it with, give me the 7 points or give me the 6 points or the 12 points or the whatever. Can you just say, go to the article at URL, blah, blah, and give me the 10 points listed in the article, and avoid that whole reading process, downloading and going through to look at them and all that kind of good stuff. Because sometimes,
yeah. What we're going to have to do is find somebody who's put together an AI tool that will do that. I have something like that, and I was trying to figure out if that's what it did. I think it was more in tune to summarize and a YouTube video by just putting the YouTube address in instead of going to it and tell it to summarize it. I haven't found one yet that will do what you suggest. I think there's probably one out there, and I'm in the process of searching for that.
Yeah, it does that with YouTube.
Yeah.
It does it with YouTube if the YouTube has the closed caption open. Otherwise, it doesn't have the transcript to draw upon.
Yeah, and I just this morning uploaded a video to the STUG channel, and I immediately said I wanted to summarize, and you're correct, it hadn't read the closed captioning yet. Once it does that, then it'll do the summary for me.
Yeah, sometimes the closed captions is not allowed by the creator or whatever, and they turn off the closed captioning. So
yeah,
you can't do it then, because it has to have the closed caption capability. That's where it gets the transcript from.
Yeah, but there are some ways. There used to be before AI became popular. Excuse me. You could download a transcript. It would figure out the transcript, and that was even before it was doing closed captioning. So I'm not sure if that's still available or not, or whether because of the technology is changed technology. So I'm still trying to figure all of that out, as well as several other things that I'm working on under AI. So
thank you.
Let's do one more article, then we'll take a break and see what's yeah, it's called Moment, and this is what to expect in Moment 3, and that's the 22H2 that was just released this past week or past couple of weeks, in which you got an update to 22H2, and they call it Moment. A moment, and it's Moment 3, and there were several items here. Let's take a look at what Bing is telling us. Let's see. Let's just tell it to clean sweep this, and here it is. Here's what to expect. So it's all here. So it's listing all of the items right here. In Bing, or you can come down in the article and see. Now, I've tried some of these things, some things, I just don't use, or it's not available to me, or I don't want to. But Alt Tab, you used to be able to hit Alt Tab and switch between windows. Well, and you could also, it would include the Edge, everything that was open in Edge, all of the sites. Well, now they're limiting the Edge to the 3 most recent Edge titles, and you can configure it to do the 20 most recent tabs. And what do I mean? I'm going to hold down the Alt key and then hit Tab, and you'll see that I have a bunch of things. And by clicking Tab, continue to hold the Alt key down, I can move back and forth. I should say I can go forward, and then it goes back to the beginning, just by hitting the tab key. If I hold down the Alt key, and I think it's the Shift key, but we'll find out in a second, and then hit tab. Yeah. And then it goes the other direction. So they've made some changes, and they limit to how much you can view in the Alt using the Alt tab. You can access keys in File Explorer. This update adds access key shortcuts to the menus displayed in File Explorer, including desktop context menus. I've not played with this at all. So if you're something that might be of interest to you, go ahead and try this. It tells you how to do it. And there are several other things. Oh, you know what I didn't do is I didn't do the immersive, so you can read it. Sorry. The Alt tab. And you can go in and you can say the 20 most recent, the 5 most recent, 3 most recent, which is the default, and then don't show tabs at all when you're doing that. And here is the accessibility and keyboard, some things you can do with the keyboard now. And let's see, touch key improvements, widget improvements. You know, I've got the widget, and if I move my mouse down here, I got the widget news thing that pops up, and I usually don't pay any attention to it, and it's usually in the way, and I'm probably going to shut it off. Let's see, two-factor authentication code, clipboard copy. I can't show you this because I use a different clipboard software, but you can now with two-factor authentication, when you receive a notification from an app that includes a two-factor authentication code, the banner will now show include a copy to clipboard button, similar to what you see on the mobile devices. So you don't have to manually type the code in whatever app is requested. So you can copy and paste it, and you don't have to forget about it in between the time you look at it and then you go to type it in. And so you can copy it to the clipboard and then paste it into where it needs to go. Oh, and also one of the things they added was seconds in the system clock. Now, I don't know if you can see my clock down here. Let me do this. Let me use Snagit. Come on, let me move this out of the way. Let me grab Snagit. And I'm going to come down here. And I'll take a picture of it and you'll see. And let's make this bigger. 100%. You can see now I've got it set with seconds after the hour and minute of the time. And you can add that or not add it. It's not automatic. You've got to turn it on. But I have turned it on. They do warn you if you're on a notebook and you're using that, it's going to use a little bit more power than that you would without it. So if you have a problem with your laptop not being able to hold all of the time and it dies before you want it to, you might want not to do that. It does show you a VPN status icon in the system tray. I don't use a VPN, so I can't show you that. And it does Microsoft Storage. The accounts page and settings now displays a Microsoft Storage section above the other sections where you might see Microsoft 365 Family and so on. And let's see, where is this in setting the account page and settings? So it will tell you that you're using the storage across Microsoft account. And there's some brightness, adaptive brightness. So if you're in with your laptop and it's real bright, the screen will get brighter. but if it's nighttime, the screen will darken down, and it'll do that automatically if you want it to. And then USB 4 hubs and device settings. I haven't gotten any USB 4 hubs, and I'm not sure how you're going to make that work unless you need special equipment. I'm not sure if any of you know about USB 4 and what it's going to work. It probably has to have some special hardware in order to use it. And you have to have a USB 4 host router as well. And there's some other things in here. You might want to read through that article. So let's go ahead and, well, I'll leave it open and go back to here. Okay, any comments, questions dealing with any of this information, or maybe something you thought of while we were watching some of these? We're quiet today. Tom.
Hello, thanks, Huey. The upgrade or upgrading to Windows 11. I'm wondering how many people in this Zoom meeting might have had issues with upgrading to Windows 11. I've had a printer that I've been using, but the printer would not install unless I disabled one of the security features in Windows 11. And so I did that, and I decided I wasn't going to do that on my second computer, and I contacted Brother Tech Support and the people, and that was like 2 months ago, and advised them of the vulnerability that this made on my computer. And finally, the guy, after I prodded him and said, you know, you're making me, you're willing to let your customers' computers be at risk. And he said, well, yeah, we'll have an update in June. And I'm just wondering if that's a problem that a lot of different equipment vendors and software writers are having and putting all of us at risk.
How old is that printer?
Norb, I don't know how old the printer is, but
That's probably where your problem comes in.
well, it said it was the Brother website says that this driver is compatible with Windows 11. So I downloaded it and installed it, and then I had that issue, even though the company said it was Windows 11 compliant.
I think his problem is in secure device drivers, and he turned that feature off at the recommendation that popped up, and that is a concern. But for a lot of devices we all use, you may never see a secured version of the driver for that device.
Also, if you don't have TPM2 on your device and you have Windows 11 installed, that's going to pop up. You have no choice but to turn it off unless you want to see it every single time you boot your system.
Yeah, well, the computer came with Windows 11 installed.
Yeah, your computer is not the problem. In this case, it's the driver that they say is compatible, and apparently Microsoft doesn't think so. And since they say that they're going to do an update in June, obviously they're not going to update unless they agree with that problem. They've already been notified by Microsoft.
And you.
Yeah. Well, you automatically wind up getting notified each time it sees that insecure driver.
No, but he also notified Brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem with some of the older printers as well. I've got one I've probably had 8 or 9 years, and I just dread the time that I'm going to have to buy a new one because something's not going to work with it. And but right now it's continuing to work. But some people have purchased or have gone to Windows 11 and just their printers just won't work with it. But in your case, it will work. You just have to turn something off. And like I think it was Tim said that in some cases it's turned off automatically with some printers, and you never know that it's not on or it's not being used. So whether it's a real issue for you, I guess that's up to you. Any other comments, questions? Okay,
just
let's,
posted in chat a link to a Google Doc from Google Bard, and I just put the same question to it that you were asking the PC Magazine. 10 reasons not to upgrade. They're similar.
okay. Yeah, but if you I think the question that whoever it was suggested or asked, it's taking it from that article.
Yeah.
As opposed to just
That's
asking for time.
Right. And I don't think Google Bard will pull articles yet and do it for you.
Yeah, I have a feeling somebody has written something like that, and I'm going to, I really want to find it because I have found it to do YouTube videos just by putting in the address of the YouTube without having to watch it and open it and so on. So
I'll
ask
it to cite references for the above question and see what it comes up.
Okay, yeah. All right, thanks. Okay, let's share again. And we're going to close that one out. And that, let's see. Next one, Microsoft PowerToys. Now, we've talked about PowerToys. I think I did a video on it. I know Bob G recently did one on this particular version of PowerToys. They're up to version 0.70, which means it's all beta. It's not been released. PowerToys are from people who work for Microsoft, but it's not really a Microsoft product as such. It's all beta, but there are some really good tools in PowerToys, and you might want to take a look at it. And so the most recent PowerToys added a couple of things to it, and one of them being for those power users who like to supercharge your operating system, Microsoft open source PowerToys application. And let's see what it says about, aside from the two inclusions. Let's see, the first one is a mouse without borders, which lets you interact with multiple computers while using the same mouse and keyboard. That's an interesting trick. And the second one is called Peek, and it lets you see a quick preview of all files you have selected in File Explorer by pressing Control Space, similar to a quick look on a Mac OS. So these are just two new features that are joining several already available in the utility. You load the utility, and then you can run it in the background and then use any of the PowerToys as you want to. So if you like to look at some different tools that'll help you with Windows, the PowerToys is a good feature to look at. 7 reasons why most users haven't upgraded to Windows 11. Here's another article. One of them was why you shouldn't or why you don't have to. This one is why people actually haven't. And let's see what it's got over here. Is this the same one? Let's find out. I think that's the article. So it does summarize, yes, 7 reasons. So it summarizes it over here, but and now it wants me to subscribe to something or do something, spend money. Windows 11's stringent system requirements is probably the main reason why people haven't upgraded. Gaming performance issues. Microsoft messed up Windows 11's taskbar. I don't think they really messed it up, in my opinion. They moved the start button from the left to the center, and you can move it back if you want. So I don't know why people think that's a big deal. I guess it's we're used to going to the same place. Windows 11 doesn't have a timeline, and 19 other Windows 10 features that it doesn't have. And the redesigned start menu isn't universally appealing. Again, that's a personal thing and what you're used to. It doesn't offer enough new features, and Windows 11 is supporting Windows 10 until October 2025. But the big thing is the security in Windows 11 is much stricter and protects you more than Windows 10 does. And that's one of the big reasons to go ahead and do the upgrade. This is a good article. Let's take a look at 5 cool folder tips that you'll love using on Windows. You can create an invisible secret folder. You got certain papers that you don't want other people who might get on your computer or might use your computer, or if they do, you don't want them to see these folders. You can create a folder faster through this shortcut. Press Control-Shift keys together on your keyboard and then the N key, and then you can name the folder. But you can also create secret invisible folders. It can be handy, especially if you share your computer with others or work in an environment that doesn't offer much privacy, or if you got kids or grandkids that you don't have set up, you let them use your computer, but they don't have you don't have a special access for them. Well, you'll see in the default yellow folder icon has become invisible. Without selecting it, no one can see it. So only you know it's there. You can use this as a secret folder to store private and confidential data. Double click it to open it and use it like a regular folder. So if you want to name it, you right click the folder and select the rename and make the name field visible. And you can also rename multiple folders together. You can duplicate a folder window. You can change folder size with the mouse. And you can find hidden folders that you forgot about. So if you create those hidden folders and you can't see them, you might forget about them. Well, there's a way to get them back, and you can easily access these hidden folders within the vast storage of your PC. And so that's another good article to take a look at and put in your arsenal. We've talked about this before, and I think Drew King talked extensively about this, and this is a good reminder, but it also had some more information about it. Let's go to the immersive reader part. How to have unlimited email addresses. Many people don't realize that most email clients have the ability to create an almost unlimited number of email addresses. This can have many uses. In this article, he'll show you a few methods on how to turn your main email address into many. He'll also give some uses for these email addresses. So the modification methods, we all have one email address. The email addresses have 3 sections: the username, the @ and the domain section. So in this case, the username, the @ and domain.com is the domain section. For example, my test email is testy tester. Well, you see what it is. It's not really words, but it's that's the address at Gmail. However, I can modify this email address and turn it into a virtually unlimited number of email addresses. Email providers take these modified addresses and deliver them to your primary email address. And here's 4 methods and how to do it. One is case addressing method. The case of an email address doesn't really make any difference, and it will get to your email box. But you can change some letters or all of the letters to uppercase, or have mixed cases like this. And you can see the different ways to do it. And even in the Gmail part of it, it doesn't make any difference. They will all go to your email account, but it will show up in the email with the difference. So if you sign up for something and it comes in all caps, and if you remember who you signed up with the all caps, you'll know who sent that or who sold that address or who shared it in some way. There's period addressing is another method, and you can put periods anywhere before the @ Most providers will reject consecutive periods, but the following addresses will all be delivered to the main email box. And that's with the whole address the way it is, with a dot after testy, putting dots after several letters, or even after each letter, or after letters towards the end or in the middle, doesn't matter where, they will all go to your email address. This does not work with all email providers, however. Hotmail, Outlook, and GMX are a few providers that this method will not work. And that's Outlook.com, not the program Outlook. And then there's the plus addressing method, where you put the first, the main email address, and then a plus, and then something after it. It can be plus ad, so you know it was from an ad, or plus newsletter, it's from a certain newsletter, or for plus Dave's computer tip, so you know it came from that email address, that particular page or newsletter that you subscribed to. And then the domain method is, some email providers have multiple domains. Excuse me, email with the same username of the email address, but different domains will get delivered to the same email box. One example is Google Mail. Google Mail has two domains, gmail.com and googlemail.com. Mail sent to the following addresses will get sent to the same mailbox. And I believe this is also true of hotmail.com, outlook.com, but they did say that it doesn't handle it the same, but that might not be the same with the domain method. But outlook.com, hotmail.com, and there's another. If you put them in, I think you'll find you'll get
ProtonMail does that too.
ProtonMail does it as well. Okay.
And it has proton.me instead of proton.mail.
Yeah. And then there's email modification uses. Why would you want to do that? Well, one is tracing spam. Modified email addresses. Let's see, move this up a little bit more. Modified email addresses can be used to trace where spam originated from. If I signed up for a service with a specific address, I could say the actual email address with a plus sign and Dave's Tips newsletter at gmail.com. And so I'll know when I get it that that's where it came from. And so if they give my email address to another organization, or if they sold it to somebody and it comes in with that address, I know where that originated from. Also, free trials. If I want to sign up for a free trial of a service, I could create a modified email address for that service. So if I want to end it, I know which one it was and where it came from, and it reminds me that I need to do that. Spam signups, if I have to enter an email address and I know that I will get spam from that address, I could enter with the word plus spam in the address and create a filter to send any email that comes from that to the spam folder. And then you got VIP emails, newsletter signups, and ads. So there's different reasons that you can do this, as well as sign up, of course, for other emails, other services, just to do a particular registration. So the bottom line is one email address can be transformed into almost an unlimited number of email addresses by using various modification methods. These modified email addresses are all delivered to the same email box. Since the modified email addresses retain their original modifications, we have knowledge of where the email originated. Now, I think that's a pretty good idea and something to remember and to keep in your arsenal. This article was interesting in the fact that it's not strictly Windows, but it's just tech myths in general. And before we go to that, let's go ahead and stop the share and see if there's any comments or questions.
I'll just expand on what we've been discussing at the last break. I used a follow-up query with Bing, and right after the 10 items were shown, and I just said, expand on your above response to include all 10, and it did. So you had the right idea. It's for some reason it didn't recognize your follow-on query, but it did.
Yeah, and I did that with, when I was testing some of these things. I may have not done it with that page. Different pages will react differently. And I'm not sure why or how, but it does. But using it is the fact that you can just click the little button at the top and have it right on the side is, I think, is kind of what the Copilot, I think, is going to do for Microsoft products. But it's really handy, and it's nice to have, where you don't have to go out and look something up. You can do it right from the browser.
Yes.
And if you don't learn anything else today, that's probably the one important thing I think you'll get out of this. Any other comments, questions? Okay.
The only other thing on email, simple logon. I think I'll find the exact link. I think it's just simplelogon.com, but I'll find it. Has partnered with ProtonMail, and so the reason for doing that is to provide free and multiple addresses in this for the same reasons that you just did. And as a ProtonMail user, if I wish to actually create a new logon, I put the extension in my browser, and every time there's a place for me to create a logon, I get a little simple logon icon in the dialog box, click it, and it creates a new logon and automatically forwards it to my ProtonMail address. The non-related to ProtonMail, they provide the same service. You get a certain number of them free each month, and then they have a small fee.
Yeah, I think there was a service, I can't remember the exact name, but was something like 10-minute mail or something like that, that you could get an address on the fly that would only last about 10 minutes. You can go check it, and then it's gone. So if you sign up for something, it's not something you want to remain on, you're just trying to go take a look at it, or there's one specific thing you want to do, you can go in, create it with a fictitious email address, and which will go away. You go in, sign on, and then it lets you into that website or get that free something, and never be bothered again by them.
One of them,
Walter, you have your hand up. Okay, I'm sorry, Mike.
Yeah,
Walter?
going back to PowerToys for a second. I
Sure.
do a lot of support online. In fact, I was in 5 different meetings yesterday, or it's Friday rather. I use the feature, I think it's Control for Windows H. I can't remember, to turn on the cursor, and you can also turn it, toggle it on and off, and anything you click will be highlighted for however many seconds you determine with a colored circle of a certain size. It's very handy when you're trying to show people how to do something on a page.
And that's one of the PowerToys?
Right.
Yeah, there's a quite a number of them, and they're all useful for most of us at one time or another. And yes, they're good to use and take a look at.
Yeah, I've also
Worth the time.
renamed a lot of my music using the Power Renamer, where you can rename multiple files at the same time.
And what does it do?
You can tell
Number them,
you can tell
number
certain
them.
strings to replace with a different string. It's similar to what you have in Word or Access.
So let's say it's image 1, image 2. You want it to be image 1, image 2, image 3. Can you change something like that where it will number it as well?
Well, if you had image 1, 2, and 3, if you just wanted to change the word image, you could change the image without changing the numbers.
Okay.
Yeah,
And can you?
it's like a find and replace in
Correct.
in Notepad, only it's for the file names. The only problem is you have to only select one file. If you select more than one file, it doesn't show up in the context menu.
Yeah, I do it in File Explorer.
Yeah, that's what I'm
The
talking about.
Explorer that
If you
opens
do
with-
that and you click on one file in that list of ones you want to change, it'll give you the right context menu. But if you select all the files you want to change, it won't. But they will, if you select the one file in the bunch, it'll then come up with the bunch that you want to see anyway. It's kind of a weird thing that they did with it, but anyway.
Yeah, well, once you figure it out, it's fairly easy to use.
Yeah. The only problem it doesn't have is it doesn't use wildcards. So like, say you had numbers or something for the first 3 digits and you wanted it to be something or to take those out, there is no way of putting in like an asterisk or a question mark to represent that one space for the character.
Right.
So
Not
there are
changing,
limitations to it, but
not changing names, but I like Snagit to do screen captures. And one of its features is you can preset what you want it to be. So you could say, I want it to be WinSIG, and then I want 4 numbers after it, starting with 0001. And every time I click do a screenshot, it automatically names it and puts it where I wanted it to, and then numerically increases them. So all I have to do is do a screenshot, and it names it, puts it where I want it, and it's ready for me to do the next screenshot. And that's a feature in Snagit that I really like. Okay, any comments, other questions? Mike, I know I stopped you on something. Anything you
I was
wanted
just
to
gonna
add?
say a whole other problem with random identifications is cell phone numbers or phone numbers. And just like simple login and the methods that you've used, there are sites that will give you a temporary telephone number good for 10 minutes or whatever it is. You get a certain amount of use for free, and after that, they want you to subscribe to their service. And if you do a lot of signing up, they require a phone number, and you don't want to take the phone calls or the texts. It's a way to do that and not be annoyed all the time.
Or just create a Gmail account and then a Google Voice number for that account, and set it only to record messages and send you an email that you got a voicemail, and you'll never be bothered by the voicemails. And then you can go, or you don't even have to have it send you anything, and you can just periodically you can go and check that Google Voice number and see if there's any messages there you want to look at. I also, at one time, I did something called video mystery shopping, where I had to be a mystery shopper and I had to give a phone number, and that wasn't difficult to do, except if they did follow up, they needed to get an answer to that number. And sometimes the company started giving us numbers, and it would go to a recording, but then they would use that for something else. And so if I needed to contact somebody without them knowing my number, I used a service. It was called spoof.com, but I understand they changed the name of it now. And you would buy so many minutes, and you would dial a number, and then you'd sign in, and then you could dial a number, and it would then say, what number do you want the call to be from? You could type in any number you wanted to, including the White House or Mike Ungerman's, and then go ahead and place the call to what number. And I dial and put in what number I wanted to call. It calls it, connects it all, and they see on their caller ID the number that you put in, Mike Ungerman's number, and not my number. And that service was, I think it was $10 for 60 minutes or something like that. It wasn't expensive. So that's how a lot of these spoofers are able to do it one at a time, but they have a much more intricate ways in which they can do series of numbers.
Yep.
Okay, let's how are we doing for time? We're doing good. And so let's share. Okay, do you still believe these 19 ridiculous tech myths? And am I an immersive reader? I think I am. Yeah, I was. Okay, so let's go back to it. And so the first one, privacy incognito mode is totally private. Do you feel a little safer from spying when you put your web browser of choice into the privacy or incognito mode? It helps, but you're far from 100% privacy anonymity. The mode erases cookies and tracking data after you close a window, but it doesn't stop websites or even your ISP from knowing where you're going. So the privacy or incognito mode in browsers isn't as private as you might have thought it was. Your small potatoes. A lot of people I hear say, you know, I'm not important. Why would I be a target for cybercrime? Well, why would anyone try to hack you if you had nothing to hide? Hold on. We all have something to hide, namely private personal information, PPI, the kind of data used in identity theft. And having it stolen really can ruin your life. If you do any kind of work on government websites, your social security number may be used or stored there. Your credit card number is tied to every online shopping spree. It might seem safe, but that kind of private data is going public all the time due to frequent massive data breaches. You may indeed be small potatoes, but that doesn't mean your PPI won't be found, sold, and resold to bad actors. And many of the tools doing this are automated. They scrape for whatever they can use and sell it, hitting as many targets as possible. So the one thing you can do to help yourself is make sure you have a different password for each site and service you use online. Because if they know that they've got your name and your password, and they go to your email address and your email address, they go to your email address, they'll try that same password for that website and see if that's the one you use for your email. And if it is, they're in your email. And if it's just changing a couple of numbers around or capitalizing something a little bit different, they've got things that automate all of that, and they can check all kinds of variations of your password each time it tries something. So by all means, you need to have different passwords for your email accounts and all of your other accounts. Everything should be a different password and not related, not by changing a couple of numbers or a couple of letters. And the automated services know that the @ can be an A, or the $ can be an S, or the 0 can be an O. And that's, you know, that's no way of keeping people out. Apple Macs and iPhones can't get malware. The evil people who write viruses want to infect as many people as possible. Because you don't hear a lot about Mac OS and iOS attacks, that doesn't mean they don't happen. While walled garden aspect of Apple's products make it more difficult for bad actors to load your devices with malware, sometimes even Apple leaves security holes in its products' defenses. So it is possible, not as easy and not as prevalent, but Macs and iPhones do get hacked, and information and are susceptible to malware and viruses. And especially if you've jailbroken your iPhone or iPad. Artificial intelligence is sentient. AI as we know it today is many things, an incredible achievement, even at this early stage, full of biases that are downright embarrassing and legally actionable, able to hallucinate. And the word hallucinate with AI means that they make up stuff. Such things as a dying man in the desert in need of water. But AI has not achieved human intelligence, and it's not self-aware, and it does not have feelings. And so there's just a lot to be careful of when you're using AI. It does make things up, and it does, it's wide open spaces. So just be careful using it. Alexa is recording everything is another myth. And Amazon Echo and similar, I'm sorry if I set yours off. The Miss A and similar devices such as the Google Home and Apple HomePod are indeed always passively listening, because if not, the devices wouldn't hear the wake up word, which is typically Miss A on an Echo device. And the wake word tells the device to actively listen and help you with a query. You can push a button on top of the device to turn off the microphone until you want it on. You could also push the microphone button on top to start your query, but that's not that's not what they were designed to do. And so there's some things about it. Now, I did read one of the things that Apple has mentioned in the announcements that they made last week is, instead of saying, "Hey, Miss S," for their iPhone and iPad, it's just going to say the S word. And I don't think that's, at least by saying hey, like in with the G devices or your phone and so on. If you say hey and then G, it's ready to answer what you want it to. But without the word hey, if every time you said the word, it would say, "Oh, what do you want?" And so I think that's a mistake on their part, but that's my opinion. And I don't matter much to Apple, I'm afraid, because I have a couple of outdated devices of theirs, and that's it. Okay, phones take pictures as well as full frame cameras. And the best camera is one you have with you, of course, and the camera we'll always have on hand is our phone. And the more megapixels means a better picture myth is one we try to dispel. This is from the people who wrote this. The sensor size inside a camera, that matters more. So the cameras in a phone are good, and some of them are great, but they're not quite the same as a camera itself. Batteries develop a memory. In the olden days, when devices were powered by nickel cadmium on NiCad batteries, they could indeed develop a memory that never let them charge past a certain threshold. That's where the whole "I must discharge my battery all the way to zero" belief came from. Doing that would act as a sort of a memory reset. Well, it's not the case with the modern lithium-ion batteries. The problem with lithium-ion batteries is capacity and degradation. In the same amount of charging time, a new phone might hit 100% when an older phone might manage only 80%. Some call it old man syndrome. Younger batteries are hungrier for power and much like teenagers at buffets. So no matter what, the more charge cycles you put a battery through, the less capacity it retains in the long run. So-called fast charging on phones makes that degradation happen even faster, and even tends to be a myth, since modern phones are very smart about charging. Stick to the usual overnight charging. Just use slow charging, whether it's plugged in or wireless. So just bear that in mind, and you should charge a phone only from 0%. That was kind of what we just talked about. Charging phones overnight overloads the battery. Most of the phones have protection from that, but I've read a lot of articles. They say don't charge it every night and don't leave it on the charger overnight, because you're degrading the battery. It doesn't, once it's to a certain point, you don't want to keep charging it, because it will lose a little bit of power and then it'll charge it again. It'll lose a little power and it'll charge it again all night long. And that leads to the degradation. You can't recycle electric vehicle batteries. Mike might know more about this, but this says electric vehicles account for only 5% of cars on the road. but sales will only go up as governments push people towards buying them. In California, for example, the mandate is that by 2035, all new cars and passenger trucks sold in California be zero emission vehicles. So apparently quite a few people think they can't recycle the batteries used in EVs. And that's not true at all. They can be recycled and be rehabbed over and over. They won't even have any performance loss. Also, the minerals inside are far too expensive and critical just to let rot in a landfill. Mike, any comments on that?
As general statement is correct, battery technology is changing. Just since we started the EV series on Tech for Senior, we've seen quite a bit of change in the last year. New chemicals, new technology, but many batteries, when it's time to be recycled, are actually put into things like power walls, commercial storage installations, things like that.
Okay, number 11 on this list is 5G towers can make you sick. And let's see what it's saying about this. Certain people have long worried it makes you sick. 5G is simply the newest over-the-air villain. Our friends at Mashable have covered for some of the conspiracy theories saying 5G turned up will cause people who are vaccinated for COVID-19 to spontaneously combust. This was supposed to happen on January 5th, 2022. It did not happen. I didn't hear of any, and I didn't combust. Furthermore, there's no scientifically validated connection. Product radiation is making you radioactive, and these are all myths. These are all myths. Expensive HDMI cables provide a better picture. There's something to be said for the beauty and durability in a cable, and sometimes you get that with an expensive HDMI cable. How expensive? We found one 20-meter cable priced at $10,500. But it's hard to believe that any cable costs that as much as a car to be is going to be worth the money. Ultimately, a digital signal is a digital signal, and a $10 cable versus a $1,000 cable of the same length, at least 75 feet long, and specifications isn't going to change the picture on your TV. You should be aware of the different HDMI standards, and I won't go into all of those, but cable length also can be a factor when your components are far apart. Over distance, cable needs to be better shielded to avoid interference. So you might indeed pay more for that, but at a certain point, you'd be better off using Ethernet. Starlink will replace everyone's ISP, and we've had numerous discussions about that. Basically, Starlink is aimed at people who don't have other means of getting internet service. Airport X-rays are erase laptop and smartphone memory, and it does not. And PCs should be shut down every night is a myth. This has been debated for many years. I don't shut mine off at night. In fact, that's when it does an automatic backup to the cloud between 11 and about 2 every night. And in the morning, I have a report sitting on the screen. I do shut off the monitors by the switch on the monitor, not at a point where if I hit this, if I turned off a strip, it would turn off other things as well. Apple slows things down, slows down old devices to get you to buy new ones. No, old computers, including Apples and PCs, do slow down because you've added a lot of things to them and you're making them do things that they weren't designed to do because they've gotten older. Cutting the cord will save you money. Well, if you start buying a lot of the services that you can stream, all of a sudden you can be back up to where your cable was. But you do have the choice of stopping and starting them at any time. and the cloud is in the sky. We didn't realize the term cloud was being taken so literally, but this myth persists, popping up in its lists occasionally. Apparently, some people think references to the cloud or cloud computing indicates that the data is stored in the actual sky and that stormy weather can interfere with it. No, the cloud is a metaphor for the internet, taken from the cloud image used in flowcharts back in the day to represent the internet's amorphous nature. More specifically, cloud computing refers to massive data farms run by the likes of Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, not only online storage and file sharing, but also for access to and development of products. Gmail, Netflix, OneDrive, Amazon, AWS are all different forms of cloud computing. And that's that article. And we're getting close to the end time, so let's see if there's any questions about any of these things or
A little comment, and
Sure.
cloud storage doesn't have to be milked either. Even if it's on a data farm.
That's utterly true. Mike, comment? You're muted.
In reaction to the HDMI cable myth, up until recently, that was probably 100% correct. Last year, I upgraded to a brand new TV, brand new home theater system, brand new speakers, et cetera, et cetera. And the new Dolby Vision and the new Dolby Atmos specifications, in order to synchronize properly with the audio return channels going down to the latest home theater amplifiers, does require a 2.1 or later HDMI cable, but also some of these cables have a lot higher bandwidth that are not specifically called out on the specification, but are part of the manufacturing. So initially I tried to use some of my older cables and did have problems. And I just went to Amazon and bought slightly higher cost cables, and they were all new and everything worked as advertised. So
Yeah, it's not really the price of them. It is the quality and what specifications they were geared for.
right.
Because there are different specifications for cable, HDMI cables, but also for your internet, your Ethernet cables.
Yep.
There's Cat 5, which everybody needed to go to a few years ago, but now there's Cat 6, Cat 7, and I think there's even a Cat 8. And getting let's say a Cat 7, you may not need it. A Cat 5 might be fine, or a Cat 4. So sometimes having more expensive doesn't mean you're going to get anything better, but sometimes it does. This has been the Sarasota Technology User Group and the Central Florida Computer Society, WinSIG, or Windows Special Interest Group, for June 11th, 2023. I'm Huey Poplock. We've had a nice discussion and several articles that we've gone over, and you can find a list of all of the links and the ones we didn't get to at huey.net/WinSIG. And Stan, I'll turn it over to you.